Welcome to the official CC tutorial on how to use the novel system. This is a premium feature for our premium members, and you access that from the drop-down menu on the home page. So now we will work together and we will create a new novel. You can add a novel to the system basically wherever you are in the process of writing it, but you do want, as you are creating it, you do want to create it when you have a fairly good idea of where it's going. You want to have an interesting blurb because some of this promotional material will appear elsewhere on CC. So you do want to have a blurb to make it sound attractive to critters. And as you're going through here creating your novel, I do want you to pay attention because some of the options you see on this screen are permanent, which means after you have created your novel, you will not be able to go back and change some of these things. So take your time and choose wisely. If you have a private queue you have built for this novel, and we'll talk about private queues in a different video, but if you have a private queue, this is where you can link it up to your novel, and all of your future chapters will be funneled in that direction. You can also include some notes about the novel. This is high-level, big-picture information about the novel overall, and these notes will appear before and after every chapter in that novel. And as I said, you can start this basically however far along you are in the novel. This is optional depending on how much you have. And now you have created your first novel. This page is kind of like the central headquarters of this novel. Everything about the novel, the chapters, the critiques, the outlines, the comments you may have gotten from critters, all of that information is in one place. And now that you have this, you can start adding new chapters to it. Now what you want to do, you can either take old existing submissions, if you've already been getting it critted, you can take existing submissions and add them, or you can add brand new content. And one more interesting thing I want to show you here. You have chapter 1 and then you have 1 chapter, 2 chapters. That is a handy thing to have because if you have an existing submission on CC, and maybe it was a prologue with chapter 1, or maybe you had a long submission with several chapters put together, this will allow the system to see that one submission accounted for more than one chapter, so that way the chapters in your novel don't get out of order. So let's say that you already have an old submission you had already submitted the beginning of the story on CC, and this will take you to your archive of different submissions on CC, and you can look through here and choose the story that you want to become your chapter 1 of this novel. And when you link this up to your novel, it will not change the content of the submission itself, but it will change the title and the genre to conform it to your novel. If you have a lot of old content, you can continue linking things up. It is free for you to link up old content. It does not cost you any credits, but if you want to start adding new content, then you do have to submit and spend credits. So we will give this chapter a cute title so that you can see what chapter titles look like. And we can continue linking up old material to our heart's content, or we can go ahead and submit a brand new submission and link it to this chapter. When you submit new material as part of your novel, you will go to this screen. This might look familiar because this is the same story submission screen that you see for every submission on CC. And the good thing about this is you do not have to go all the way through your novel if you want to add a new chapter. You can come to the home page and you can start submitting, and then that's when you will choose chapter in a novel. There is more than one avenue to get to this screen, but once you get to this screen, it is the exact same process. And this is how you will submit new content. Make sure it goes to the right queue. You will have to spend credits to do this, but it will link it up to your novel. And let's just kind of fast forward and we'll show you what it ends up looking like. Now you have chapter 2 attached to chapter 1. And another benefit that you can do here, if you're linking up a lot of old material, and say maybe it's already been critiqued, it's already been through the queues, and now it's archive material, you can actually go through and add a synopsis to all of your chapters so that if someone is joining your novel halfway through, they can actually go down the list and they can see what you achieved in that chapter so that they can work their way through old chapters very quickly and catch up on the story right away. So now we can continue adding more chapters if we like. We can link old content, add new content. But let's say chapter 2 is an important place because chapter 2 is where you introduced some important element. Maybe you have a magic system, or maybe you have a planet they land on, or maybe you have an organization you need to introduce and explain. That is where an outline can come in handy. And we will show how to do that. We will talk about making outlines in a different video so you can learn how to make an outline. But if you have an outline that is in regards to this novel, you can link it up to the exact chapter where that character or element first appears. And that way, when your critter is going along and they read chapter 2, all of the information and all of those outlines can be right there at their fingertips. And so I will show you now, this is what the finished product will be. This is what critters will end up seeing. All of the attachments about this novel are right here in chapter 2. You have that novel blurb we talked about before. You have the synopsis of what you achieve in this chapter. And you have outlines for characters who may be introduced in this chapter. Those are the high-level author notes. Those are the chapter-specific notes. And you also have the same thing down at the bottom. This is the pattern of what all of the chapters in the novel will look like. So now let's bump ahead. Let's say that maybe you had attached an old version, an old draft of chapter 1, and now you have gotten crits, and now you have a new version of chapter 1. What you can do, you can actually preserve the original draft and add a new version to it by using this function here called replace with revision to. And this will give you the ability to have more than one version of that chapter coexisting at a time. And this is the same story submission page that you've seen. You can get here and then you just go through the steps of choosing the revision. And once you have added this here, now you have chapter 1 with version 1, version 2. Not only does this help you keep track of your revisions, but you can also allow critters to read both of them and maybe judge which one they liked or see maybe where you've improved. All of that is right there at your fingertips. What you can also do, if you don't feel like adding a revision, or if you just want to remove the content in that chapter and start from scratch, you also have the ability to remove a submission out of a chapter. And you can do that by using the disconnect feature, which is, if we scroll down, you will see it's the little picture that looks like a link being pulled in half. And the benefit of using this to disconnect a submission from a chapter is it will not delete that material. That submission will still be on CC, it will still be in your archives, you will still have access to it. It just won't be in the novel anymore. So that way if critters are reading novels, they won't stumble upon it. So we're going to go ahead and just delete both of the versions of this. We're going to disconnect both of the versions of chapter 1. And another benefit of doing this is that it allows you to empty out a chapter without destroying all of your progress. If you had an outline or a synopsis attached to this chapter, it would still be there. Chapter 2 is still there undisturbed, and it will hold a place for you to come back and add your new chapter. Now, we get a lot of questions about this little simple button up here at the top. What CC will end up doing, critters will be able to see a promotional version of this novel page that will have a lot of the information laid out for them in a user-friendly format. And the simple button will give you an idea of what that looks like, of what the public ends up seeing. And you can do that by using Add to My Info. You can use that little button, and what it will do is it will create a little promotional item about this novel on your personal member profile on CC. So if somebody clicks on your name, they're checking out your profile, they will see that you have a novel you're working on. And not only will they get a little blurb about the novel, but the title will become a link that will take them to a novel page where they can start checking it out. And when it's in the queues, when you are promoting it in the queues, this is what it ends up looking like, and now you know what that little blue booklet means. I hope this has been informative. If you have other questions, ask us and we will get you answers.